So we were talking just briefly beforehand about the way marketing and promotion was handled in the music industry up until recently. Maybe you could talk about that for a second. Like, for example, when you were working at GRP or at Warner Brothers, and you had a marketing plan for a new release, what did that involve, and how would the budget be handled? How much would it be budgeted for, and how would you spend that money? A lot of questions at one time.
Ooh, big question. Of course, it all depends on the artist and what approach we were going to take. The one thing that's so wonderful about the record business that separates it from every other business, we're not marketing cans of tuna. We have a different product every time we come out with something. You may have an artist that has a history or a background that you can fall back on and what worked in the past and how to work forward from that. But when you're coming up with a brand new artist, it's all changed dramatically. As I was telling you before, when I first started for ABC Records in 1973, there was no internet. There was no MySpace. There was no XM. There was no Sirius. So it's strictly you budgeted your money for radio promotion, for print advertising, for what they used to call price and positioning in retail. So a large chunk of the budget would go to that. Artist development sort of became the catchphrase for where you were going to put your payola dollars, which, as I said, thanks to Governor Spitzer of New York now, I don't think that we're going to have as much graft and corruption or as much opportunity for it. I think now where most of the smart money is going to is finding where the consumer has gone. And unfortunately, in the music business, we made a big mistake and ignored the internet and thought that, oh, well, it's not going to interfere with my business, and the whole prospect of downloading has totally changed the way that we do business. And even now, the legalities. I have an artist that we wanted to launch in a different fashion by doing a free download with all the smooth jazz stations across the country. And the legalities involved with, you know, who gets the publishing dollars and who's going to make their nickel 98 has changed everything. And that's part of the problem why the record companies are in such a bad way right this minute. And I probably didn't answer your question at all in terms of like how much money you would spend, a percentage to spend. Right now, the largest, if I was doing a marketing plan for an artist, I would want to put the largest amount of money in internet technologies.
In the sense of downloads? Or?
More in the sense of, I was on a panel at R&R because I'm on a MySpace jihad, is what they mentioned in R&R, that I'm, and I really am. I started a MySpace site for my son's band, and I've seen how it has grown fans and has exposed them to people all over the world. I have my own MySpace site. I recommend all of the artists, you know, that I work with to develop a MySpace site because it was 130 million people on there this morning. You know, so I would put money into developing those types of opportunities. Where did your consumer go? You know, if you're especially my situation is I work with adult-based music, so I don't have the opportunities that you do when you have a Britney Spears or a Justin Timberlake. I mean, it's harder to get an adult to go into a record store to buy something. So there's a little bit more. You have to give them really a real strong reason to go in and part with their $20. But with Amazon, it's so easy to order it. So you have to, if the consumers are going there, you have to spend your money there and to get them there.
Well, it's an independent consultant, I suppose. You have your own company. Mm-hmm. Record companies hire you to mm-hmm. promote their new releases. Mm-hmm. So do you write the marketing plan, or are you just a component of a marketing plan?
In my present situation, again, it all depends on what the artist or label hires me for. I do have artists that are their own record company. You know, they produce the record, they've manufactured the record, they're selling it online, they're selling it through consignment in local stores. So that's a different kind of approach for them. I have companies. I do exclusive promotion for Peak Records, which took a lot of the artists from GRP. We have the Rippingtons, we have David Benoit, Eric Marienthal, Gerald Albright. For Peak Records, I do write their marketing plan. But it's a collaborative effort with their sales department and with their internet technology people. We all have input. If it's a solo artist that has hired me to do everything, I do the whole thing for them. But for Peak, I just do the radio promotion and marketing.
So you're hired by Peak to do that for all of their artists?
Yes.
So what kind of budgets do they assign to that undertaking?
It depends on the artist. Everything always goes back to the artist, and a lot of record companies look at what the past sales were. If your past sales were at a certain level, they will spend X amount of money. If you have no history at all, then it's a roll of the dice of how much they will spend for you. An average marketing budget, let's say for the Rippingtons, which is the premier artist on Peak because the owner of Peak manages the Rippingtons, and Russ Freeman, who's in the Rippingtons, is part of the owner of the label. They get a significant marketing budget. I would say, I think on this last record, because it was a 20th anniversary with a DVD, they spent probably about $300,000 in international, because they're bigger over in Japan and Europe. And that's the whole budget. That's the whole thing to do the DVD and everything else.
Oh, so that's the production
That's not
as
just,
well.
that's the production, that's everything. To break it down strictly to marketing, I think it would probably be about maybe as much as a third of that.
So $100,000 for a marketing budget for and I have that record, and that's a pretty extensive package. I mean, it's an anniversary project, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you break that down? What percentage of that would you spend on print and on radio and on internet? It's still the internet, right?
It's still the internet, yeah. It's hard for me to actually break that into a figure for you. With the Rippingtons, and I'll just use them as an example, we don't spend as much money on the radio side of things with smooth jazz because they have a certain cachet. They can go, they're the Rippingtons, this is 20 years, so you don't have to spend money to make people aware of who they are.
You just have to mail the product to the radio station.
You have to mail it, you have to, where we spend a lot of money is in doing the win it before you can buy it. So we do a lot of product giveaways, bringing people to shows. A lot of artist development marketing money is bringing the Rippingtons to do a show here for Loyola, and we cover their talent fee and you cover their travel expenses type of thing. So those type of budgets all, but I don't, again, in my situation as a subcontractor, I don't have the final authority on the budget. That's just something that I put my recommendations in.
And budgets changed, I guess, depending on how well the record's selling, or
Exactly.
it's moving up, they'll spend more money.
Well, you have a weekly marketing meeting, and in the marketing meeting they discuss, what the sales were the previous week and where our hot spots are, and, where it makes more sense to spend more money. Obviously, in the major markets for jazz, it makes more sense to spend money. Very little money is spent on print anymore. And a lot of the retailers, of course, Tower Records is going out of business, and their charges for price and positioning. An example, a project that I worked last Christmas for Marilyn Scott, Borders did a program over the Christmas holidays, and they charged Prana Records $75,000 for a month's worth of price and positioning at Borders for Marilyn Scott, but then they only ordered 600 pieces of product.
Great.
So, and they're because of their inventory control, they put 2 in a store, and if you sell the 2, then they'll replace the 2, but they won't put deep product in the store anymore. So that's that's something that the record companies are having to deal with, is how much the cost per unit, how much you spend to sell one piece of product.
600 to 75,000. That doesn't come out.
No,
does
it doesn't. And that's why the record companies are scrambling